Good morning, everybody. I'm really glad you're here. Welcome. Today we're discussing Marin City issues. There are books for sale on Marin City in the back. Back in the late teens, church and society became aware of the deplorable living conditions in Golden Gate Village. We heard the then head of Marin Housing Authority blame the residents for the problems there. We used much of the funds we received from the capital campaign to support various projects in Marin City, including a lawsuit against the Housing Authority, charging it with neglect. Today, our four speakers will describe how they got involved and how things stand now. And they are all wonderful people to work with. The first to speak will be Ann Devereaux, who's founder of Friends of Golden Gate Village. Sarah Turner, next, is a longtime member of Mill Valley Seniors for Peace. Marilicia Mack is the coordinator of Come to the Table and knows everyone in Marin City. And Marguerite Moriarty works on everything, but her main focus is Stop 825 Drake. So now I'm going to welcome Ann to the podium.
When Barbara invited me to speak, I thought, and she asked me to talk about how, we got started, Friends of Golden Gate Village, and I thought, I got to think back. So it was a useful exercise. But, we really built on the shoulders. We were working on the shoulders of First Presbyterian, because you had been involved in Golden Gate Village earlier than we had. So I drew from several people, including your wonderful pastor, Scott Clark, as we went through and we developed Friends of Golden Gate Village. But I'll tell you how it started. I am a member of Road of Shalom, and we did a 6-week racial justice group where we read this book. It's called Me and White Supremacy, and over 6 weeks we discussed each part of this book, and we looked at our own biases, we looked at our own history, and then we made some kind of commitment to working in Marin County to try and overcome racial injustice. So I decided I was going to work in Marin City, and I didn't know how to start. So first thing I did is I volunteered for about 6 months with Felicia Gaston. Many of you probably know her. She's a tour de force in Marin City. And I delivered food, and then I was a vaccine buddy, helping people come and get their COVID vaccines. And then I kept hearing about this housing issue. And one day I met Royce McLemore, and she said, come talk to me. So Rabbi Alana from Road of Shalom and I went down and talked to her. And she talked about the issues, and I already knew a lot of it because I'd been doing some research. But then we listened to her. We listened to her for an hour and a half. And at the end of it, we said, well, what do you need? And she sat and she thought, because no one, I don't think, had really kind of asked the question the way we were asking. And I said, well, what do you need? And she said, we need white advocates. We need you to advocate for what we know we need. We know what we need, we just need you to advocate. So I said, okay, and how do you propose we do this? She said, that's for you to figure out. And typical Royce answer, you know her. And so we sat down a little bit, Rabbi Alana, and decided, and Royce was saying how she was giving these tours. So we said, okay, if you will give a few tours just focused on this issue for us of developing advocates, we try and put together a team, and then we'd figure out what we'd do from there. So she did 3 tours, and we recruited about 20 people who were interested in proceeding ahead. And then we put in place some guiding principles that really are important. And one of them was that really we are advocates. We do not represent Golden Gate Village. We do not represent the resident council or the strategy team that they have in place, but we advocate for them. So that was one of our very important guiding principles. And so we started, working. We started standing up at Board of Supervisor meetings. We had this bright idea. Well, we got a lot of feedback from people who had done these tours that this is the first time they've ever been to Marin City. They didn't know about any of these issues. And so we put together a bit of an education session so that as people joined us, we could talk about what these things were. And then we had a couple of eye-opening experiences, and one was people kept telling us they didn't know Royce, they didn't know about Golden Gate Village. So we decided, okay, let's have a panel that we open to the entire county. And we asked Scott to moderate that panel. And we attracted several hundred people through that, and we raised $22,000 in the course of that evening that we did it. So that was one thing we did, and that was eye-opening to me because it made me realize how generous people are in Marin County, and how if the opportunity happens, they can open their heart. Because I was relatively new to Marin County. And in terms of, and the second thing we did that was eye-opening to me was we decided we were going to have a meeting with Stephanie Moulton-Peters, who had just become our supervisor. So what we did is we set up a meeting. First we were going to use our Zoom, and then she called me. She said, no, I want to use my Zoom. And by the way, Katie Rice is coming with me. And so I said, okay, that's fine. And when we did that Zoom meeting, there were 50 people on that Zoom call. And it wasn't only eye-opening to me that we could actually gather enough people that were interested, but also that they were surprised. I can remember Katie Rice goes, whoa, as she's watching as people were signing on, 10 people, 20 people, 30 people, 50 people. And she goes, oh, people are interested. And so we went from there, and we write letters to the editor. We did a lot of things, and we helped Louis Jordan find another job, and we did a lot of things. And now we're about a group of 25 that people who do things, and we do several initiatives, just not only Golden Gate Village. But you'll hear about some of the other work that we do. And please join us. We don't have a website, although people keep telling me we should have a website, so maybe that's in the offing at some point. But we do have you can always email me, and you get on our lists. We send out things periodically when it makes sense for people to be updated on things. We ask people to do things like stand up at meetings, attend this meeting, write your supervisor. So we do a lot of these things. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity to do this, because it is an amazing group. And we have about, we communicate in the county with about 420 people at this point, but we always can communicate with more. So anyway, thank you for the opportunity, Barbara. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Sarah Turner, and I began my interest in the Golden Gate Village as a member of Mill Valley Seniors for Peace about 12 years ago, I think, and we had read a lot about it and heard a lot about that there were woes going on at Golden Gate Village, but the newspaper seemed to always favor what was going on with the county, and we got part of our mission is to support racial justice, but we were a little confused about what side we should be on this. It didn't, and so we had Louis Jordan come to the Redwoods in our auditorium and speak to us, and we also had Royce and some of her compatriots come and speak with us, and we kept learning. And we found out that Louis Jordan had been the director of housing in Chicago when a prominent public housing place was to be rehabbed, and it turned out that a lot of it was destroyed and that it was gentrified, and so the people that lived there and had a wonderful community going weren't able to come back, and they literally lost their community and their homes. And so we got a little suspicious of what was going on with Louis Jordan. And so we decided that we would fully back the people at the Golden Gate Village and support their work, because we were afraid that Golden Gate Village could, with Lewis at the helm, was going to go the same direction as it had in Chicago, and we couldn't abide that. So we had, by then, after we had done all this research and decided where we were, Anne had started her Friends of Golden Gate Village, and she came to the Redwoods and invited us to join them. So we said, wow, great. We were really grateful for that, because, we were a bunch of essentially old women and, with limited abilities to do the things that we wanted to do. And Anne brought in another generation, like our children's generation, and all have much more able than we were, and better resourced, and just as dedicated as we were. And so we were glad to join up with them and start doing our work for Marin City through seniors, through the Friends of Golden Gate Village. Of course, we kept doing what we could do at the senior, just educating mostly, making sure the people there knew what was going on. So fast forward now, we have a new director and we have a new developer, Burbank Housing of Santa Rosa. And Friends of Golden Village had grown and their interest had grown, and so we kind of divided into a couple of teams, one working on the outreach and across all the issues in Marin City, and the other team was focused firmly just on Golden Gate Village itself. And I joined that team this year, but mostly it's manned by or women by people in West Marin, the Main Street Moms. But a couple of us said we wanted to join that, and they welcomed us. So I've been working just this year in that team that is focused primarily on the maintenance of the building now. With rehabilitation coming, and we don't know how long, 5 years or more until it's changed. We knew that the maintenance issues were going to continue. We knew that we worked again, as Ed said, by learning from the residents and supporting what they needed. And what they needed was no more mold. They needed no more rats. They needed basic things for livable conditions. And so the team that I joined started meeting with all the different groups that were working on these issues. There's a maintenance team meeting with people from MHA and residents and us, and we meet twice a month, review all the maintenance issues that are going on, get some input, but we're still supporting what the residents need, not what we need. And also, we have we go to the resident council meetings. They have them twice a month also, and we learn what they need, what their issues are, and we try to support those. And we go to, as Ann said, to the Board of Commissioners meetings once a month at the Civic Center. And there we speak up and make sure that things don't fall between the cracks. And that's what seems to happen. The commissioners will say, MHA, please do this. And it kind of falls off and it doesn't happen. Or the MHA says, oh yeah, we'll do that, we'll do this, and then nothing happens. And so we said we were going to track these things. So we go to the meetings and we find out what was asked by the commissioners, what was promised, or commitments made by MHA, and we provide a monthly letter to the commissioners saying, here are the things that you asked for, here are the things that MHA said they would do, follow up, please. And that's been very helpful, because less things fall between the cracks, and we can keep pulling things out of the cracks and bringing them up so that they get attention. So some of the things that, as I've said, mold is a big issue. And one of the problems with that is that they're not allowed to have screens on their windows or on their doors because that's an expense. And we'll just wait till it gets rehabilitated in 5 or so years. Meanwhile, mold grows because there's no airflow. They can't open their windows or doors because the vermin come in. And the vermin can get right through those screens if they don't put metal at the bottom of it, so they don't come in. So that's been a big issue. There's been a landscaping issue. The place used to be beautiful, landscaped just according to the plans and maintained that way. But for the last 15 years, they really haven't done much but just minimal stuff. So it wasn't looking very well. But that Dynamo Royce got a team, and they won a contract to do the landscaping as they had been doing long ago. And it's already looking much better. And we have a lot of plans to bring it back to the way it was in its historical past and keep it getting better and better. So that's already working. A new problem has just cropped up, which is that there is apparently asbestos in the water pipes that go to the buildings. Now, this is an expensive kind of a thing you have to repair, but it's essential to the health and safety of the residents. So this is an issue that we are going to be following because it's not one you can say, oh, we'll take care of it in 5 years. It's one that we need to work on right now. So what we're doing is really being the messenger of information, making sure that everybody remembers the things they promised, and that the work orders get filled in a timely way. There's now a process for that that's better. They have a problem with the recertification of residents for being eligible to be in public housing. And MHA had farmed this out to a vendor that was unsatisfactory. They were crazy, all kinds of errors. The residents were anxious because, are we going to get kicked out? What's going to happen? And all this kind of thing. They get letters that were threatening to them. So now we've kept on this as advocates and said, we really need to bring this function in-house and monitor it so that there aren't errors being made by a vendor that you're paying lots of money to and they're not working well. And so they have now hired more in-house certification workers, and it's starting to be better. And they're phasing out that other vendor that was not working. So we're going to continue keeping track of what's going on, advocating for what the residents need, making sure that people don't forget things and that things don't fly off somewhere and never get handled. So that's our function, and we're going to continue doing it as long as we need to. So thank you.
Hi, good afternoon. And happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And my name is Mary Lisa Mack, and I was asked by Barbara to tell you a little bit about how I got here. So, also ways that you can get involved. So I relocated here after Hurricane Katrina, and once I was settled in, me and my kids, I felt the need to want to give back. So I helped in many ways. I would assist with nonprofits like performance stores. I assisted Felicia for about 15 years. I assisted Miss Terry Green with her organization as she was just getting started on her organization. And I joined the Red Cross, the American Red Cross, where I was head of the pillowcase project. And of course, there's some other things like when they had a disaster and sheltering and everything. And I became a CERT trained, and I'm still active with the American Red Cross. So, and I started working at the Community Service District in Marin City, the Marin City CSD, and I got to assist with the elders and with the seniors, and did a lot of things with the youth, and help the general manager with her daily duties. I assisted with that at the CSD. And so then I started assisting Ricardo Moncrief with Isoji Marin City, and what we do is we build equity for Marin City. And I think I've been doing that for probably, can't remember too good. I think about 15 years. I'm not sure. So yeah, and I'm still currently doing that with Isoji Marin City. And then I was trained by a dear friend of mine, Felicia Chavez, with System Thinking Marin. She currently has a book out called Dear Marin, and I was actually acknowledged in her book, Dear Marin. So if you're a good book reader and you like books, Felicia Chavez, Dear Marin. It was a little, what you call that, promotion. I love Felicia though. So I got a lot of allergies, so keep looking down at this paper. But I became one of the original founders of the Marin City People Plan, and we worked a lot on permaculture and, rain gardens, all that good stuff, and that was pretty good, and I still love that whole concept. And then I later learned my grandson was diagnosed with a severe mental illness, and I began advocating for him, and I was asked to be a member of the First Missionary Baptist Church Mental Health Advocacy Team, and I'm still currently a member of the advocacy team as a community health worker. And I also graduated from the Leadership Institute of Allen Temple in Oakland, California, in emerging leaders and in civic engagement. I'm currently a member of the Marin County Behavioral Health Board, which was formerly called the Marin City Mental Health Board. And I still felt the need that I need to help and support more people in the community, meaning Marin City community. So I became a Medicare peer support specialist, and I did volunteer work over at the Enterprise Resource Center in San Rafael, the ERC. And still, I felt like I just needed to do more because. So I started this idea about creating a resilient environment, Care Marin, because it had so much more that needed to be done in Marin City, as alone support groups like women's support groups, hearing voices groups, any form of mental health group. So that was my initial idea, but Care Marin now focuses mostly on support groups like the Wellness Recovery Action Plan, Basic Peer 101, like teaches people how to become a peer. They even have the idea but don't know exactly what a peer is or what to do. I teach the Basic Peer 101, and I also advocate for people in the community, and I do 101s. Like Help 101, like if people don't want to be in a big group, and I support them that way. So I'm also a NAMI family support facilitator in Marin City, National Alliance for Mental Illness. So I facilitate family support groups, which deals with the family members, not the person who actually has some form of behavioral health. So I help support the family members. And I'm also part of the the NAMI cognitive behavioral therapy training through Dr. Kirkenston, and I love that training, and I get so much more out of it. And currently, I'm part of the. I was currently part of the first ever participatory budgeted implementation team, and yeah, so we allocated funds to people who wanted to start nonprofits who didn't know how, and to help them out in the best way they could, and all that's going well. So if anybody want to find out more, they could go on the county website and they could look at the mapping and see all the new organizations and what they're doing now and how far they've gotten with it. And I just love that whole concept too, and it's going so well. But presently, right now, we're part of me and a team of other ladies, and Pastor Floyd Tompkins at the First Missionary Baptist Church, he initiated to come to the table where we have dinner and conversations, and then we'll have a speakers forum afterwards on a specific topic that we think is important, like right at the time, and like what's happening now. And so we have the dinner and conversations first, then we have our speakers forum, and what we do, we try our best to have 25 members of Marin City and 25 members of Marin County come together and at a dinner and hold conversations. And yeah, I think that's going very well, and you can assist by just coming in and being a part of the conversation, or come in to the forums. You can also find us on www.cttt.org, and I think I covered everything. I'm not sure.
What she forgot to say is she's the project manager of Come to the Table.
Yeah, and it's fun. And we have a great team, and we keep everything together. But as a team, because I do believe teamwork is dream work, and yeah, we would love for everybody to come out and participate, to come to the table. Or one of the topics I just went over, we can support it in any kind of way. I'm just willing to give more information about it. But yeah, thank you so much for having me here, Barbara, and thank you all for having me.
Come to the table is fabulous.
And it's mostly Marin City carers.
Yes.
So it's really good.
Okay. Hi, everyone. Can you hear me? Or
I don't think that works. I think you just have to talk loud.
okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Marguerite Moriarty. Been here in Marin since 1980. And I have great affection for this campus because my kids went to San Anselmo Preschool. And they're 42 and 44 now. So anyway, I'm a latecomer to this social justice issue. After George Floyd was murdered in front of our eyes, in front of this whole nation, I started attending demonstrations down in Mill Valley at Camino Alto by the Redwoods. And then that led me to SURGE, which is the Stand Up for Racial Justice. And then that led me to Golden Gate Village. And so then I did a tour with Royce at Golden Gate Village, and I was attending supervisor meetings. We went door to door through Golden Gate Village to see the houses. I have here on my phone pictures of bathrooms down there in Golden Gate Village that were literally raining down mold. Wow. And the ventilation's not great. So, I mean, it's an old building. I'm not saying it's all the Marin Housing Authority's fault. It's just, some of the nature of the building too. But
The project at 825 Drake Avenue, I feel really strongly about. Marin City has more of the dense public housing. You all probably know that it's one way in, one way out. The Sierra Club said, it's a high fire zone. They don't want that building. There's only that one little piece of property left. My good friend Ann Wagner from Sleepy Hollow she was on the grand jury 10 years ago. She drove down from Sleepy Hollow. She's one of my only friends that actually drove down there and looked at the property and said, this is wrong. It's not right. So, we've done what we can. We need to keep raising our voices about this property and help the people in Marin City have self-determination. One of the things that I think is really important for all of us is to get educated. I can't believe what I don't know, And so recently, my niece and my nephew, one graduated from college, the other one graduated from high school. And at Susan's storeroom, I read this little card about Albert Einstein, how in the 1940s, when African Americans were prohibited from staying in hotels, he allowed them to stay in his house. I have the picture of him on my phone, so I'm using it to send graduation cards and educating my niece and nephew. They both, when they got it, they were like, we were at dinner and they said, oh, I didn't know that about Albert Einstein. And it's our job, to teach people. I had no idea. My good friend Jeffrey Shaskin, he's a Quaker. He lives in Greenbrae. He was raised Jewish. I got sideways here. I forgot what I was going to say about him. We go to Marin City and protest every Friday. We didn't go in the winter, but it's just so important for us to stand up for the people. I read the book, The Color of Law, and I gave a copy of it to my son. And it just chokes me up because he wrote back to me and he said, opportunity denied to a whole class of people for no good reason except for the color of their skin. And that we have to be the change. I am looking around this room and I see about 25 people. But if every one of us leave here today and talk to one person, and then that person that you talk to talks to one person, that's what they say in The Color of Law. It's incremental. Pastor Floyd said that at our meeting on Tuesday, So I've told everybody in Marin City, I'm in this until I'm dead. I was a latecomer, but I didn't have the luxury of being, a non-working parent. I got divorced. I've been divorced 27 years, so I really had my head down, But, I've never thought of myself as a prejudiced person. I had a great friend, that I worked with in the insurance business, and I used to go to San Bruno to have lunch with her. And she had the most amazing laughter, because I could just hear her, a couple aisles over in the cubicle. And she was African American from Texas. Now I've got another good friend that's got links in Texas. But so I just really feel strongly, I started out with the different books. One was Bury the Chains. That's how what I was talking about with Jeffrey Shaskin, my Greenbrae friend. He's a Quaker, and I had no idea that the Quakers were so instrumental in abolishing, the ships leaving England. And it was also the women that were boycotting the sugar. Imagine the Brits boycotting tea. They didn't have the sugar. Yeah, I learned all that in the Bury the Chains. So, go out there, talk. I have to say, it's not easy because my experience has been that a lot of people aren't interested. I put basically my letter to the editor in my neighbors' mailboxes. I know all of them. I walked, the neighborhood, met them. I've lived there 22 years. Not one person reached out to me. It had my address stamp on it too, and said, Marguerite, tell me more about this. So it's not an easy conversation. And I don't know whether it's people are afraid or they've just got their heads down like I did, for a long time. But, just talk to people. And one last thing I wanted to say is just think about your own situation, your family, your advantages and your privilege. And, pay it forward.
Thank you to our panelists. I wanted to leave time for questions. Do people have questions they want to ask? No questions? We can all go home. Yeah.
I'll start with a stupid question. It wasn't stupid when I started, but in the sermon you mentioned the difference in the mortality rates that compared to Marin, it's 8%, 8 years younger, and compared to Sausalito. And I was about to ask, well, what are those social determinants? And then you started talking about mold and asbestos, and it was very clear. But could you go on and talk about what the social determinants are that you think are critical?
Well, like I can before anybody else because, like, I live in Marin City. And it's quite different coming from New Orleans, And so, New Orleans, they do take care of the drainage and everything. But like in Marin City, like we have Terry Green, and we have her daughter Shanaka with the youth environmentalists coming up to our next Come to the Table, which is the second Saturday in July. And they have a lot of environmentalists who's going to be there, and things like, the pipes haven't been changed probably since the 60s, and the water and just the environment itself. You could hear a lot more about it. That's one of the greatest determinants because of the breathing, and a lot of people now have asthma, and since in Marin City, so along with bad heart, and people might think, well, what do they usually say bad heart come from? Not eating healthy, but
Stress.
it's a lot to deal with a lot of stress and stuff like that. So we're going to talk about a lot of that the second Saturday at the Presbyterian. Yeah.
And you live right by the highway, where all the pollution comes in, and they need the noise, and that they need protection. Other places along 101, they build walls to protect communities from those things, but now I think they're just going to do a study. That's where the money goes, to a study. We need to just get it done.
Other questions? I mean, there's other social determinants of health, like education, jobs, housing, all of that stuff is really important. Other questions? Tom?
When you were mentioning about the pipes and the asbestos and all that, it reminded me of what's going on in Detroit with the lead pipes.
Oh, yeah, exactly.
Which then made me think, are there federal funds to be looked at and to help get this problem taken care of?
It is a federal building anyway.
The money that's.
I think
Terry Green's website,
Some of it is,
I think is,
but not much.
Terry Green has a website, Climate Resilience Marin City, something like that. She has a long list of environmental issues.
Yeah,
It just seems to me, rather than just depending on the MHA, there's other places to get big money.
What about the Buck Fund? It's supposed to stay in Marin,
yes.
and this is Marin.
Good point.
Shouldn't the Buck Fund be doing it?
MCF has been, I think, relatively unresponsive. There are the churches that, they give small grants, they've been giving small grants to various issues, and now they've changed their strategy, so they want to give big money to fewer projects. And it's going to take a while for everyone to understand what that means. But yes, absolutely, MCF should be more engaged. And they say they're going to be around underserved communities, but we haven't seen it yet.
I wanted to get the name of the book that you talked about earlier again.
It's called Me and White Supremacy.
Me and White Supremacy.
Yes, and it is by Layla F. Saad, S-A-A-D, and it's just a really good book to examine your own biases and really understand them in the context of some of the systemic racism that's going around, and it's very good. And we're thinking in Road of Shalom about reinstituting this racial justice set of seminars that's going to happen, but it was very powerful. There were like 4 of them that were running concurrently. Each of them had facilitators, and it got people moving, which it's so hard to do. You understand, but then you need to be encouraged to do something, and it's hard to do, but if you're working in kind of a team, it's easier. It's easier. And there are lots of good books. Color of Law. Marguerite mentioned Color of Law. You want to talk about the root of systemic racism, it's by Richard Rothstein, and actually his daughter has written a new book called Just Action. She is a community activist, and she's speaking at Come to the Table later on. What is which one is that? September.
Yeah.
So the Come to the Table is always the second Saturday of the month, so far anyway. And that's when we have the dinners and the speaker forum. And Marlicia gave the name of the website so you can sign up. I tell you, the dinners, do it early because the dinners sell out pretty quick. And they're free, okay? Yeah. But the seminar, you can come to any of them. You're only supposed to be able to come to one, Come to the Table until we go through, until we exhaust everyone that wants to come. Then we'll start a second round, probably next year, I would think, something like that.
Yeah.
But you can come to any of the speaker events, and they're amazing events. We just had our 4th one. We had one on art, we had one on employment, we had one on history, and we'll probably do another one on history.
Yeah, we're going to have a second one on history.
Yeah.
And environment is coming up next.
And then we've got one on education with Betty Hodges. What people don't understand, and I didn't understand for a long time, what terrific leadership there is in Marin City. I mean, listen to the credentials that Mayor Lisi has, And there's a lot of people like that in Marin City who have been working for a very long time, like Felicia Gaston, like Terry Green, like Royce Lackamore, like Betty Hodges. A lot of people. And so when you start engaging with them, you realize they know what they need. And what they need is they need support. They need advocacy support, people support, volunteer support. They need money, or they need help in how to access money, which is a big deal. Anyone that's got fundraising, credentials would be very, very welcome around this.
More questions?
Can I just add?
Yeah, if you need to access, if you need to remember about come to the table and forget the URL, just do a Google search on come to the table Marin, and it's right there.
Yeah.
Scott.
I'm going to come up here to say a few words of encouragement because I'm really inspired, particularly by what was just said. But I want to thank Mary Alicia and Marguerite and Sarah and Ann for this and for everything that they're doing. So here's why I think that come to the table in particular is so important as a fundamental and foundational experience to do all the other things that you've heard folks talk about. I've mentioned, but I'll remind you that back in November, the Ministerial Alliance, that are the churches in Marin City and Marin Interfaith, we got together and held a forum, a luncheon and programs, conversation about 3 major issues in Marin City for clergy in Marin County. And gosh, so I worked on it with Pastor Floyd Tompkins, Pastor Leggett, Scott Quinn, and me. We had about 40, 50 people there. It was pretty incredible. And at the end, we were very sobered at how little white clergy folks knew about Marin City. And so there was this pause, and particularly Pastor Tompkins and Pastor Leggett said, folk need to be educated. And we need to be educated before we come to help, so that we help listening to our neighbors in Marin City in ways that are actually helpful, not bringing our own sense, our own, I'm speaking for myself, my own uninformed sense, but rather with the humble acknowledgement that the folks who know the most are the folks who are there on the ground, the folks who've been living this, who've been harmed, and who are the experts in every regard, in personal and in professional experience. So what come to the table opens up, is the opportunity first to come and to get to know neighbors. Get to know neighbors in that conversation. Do the meal thing on the one chance you get this year. It's awesome. And then the panel discussion just blew my mind. And I've met both of the speakers, but just the information that you get, it's one of the most well-done panel discussions I've ever attended. It was just that high quality, but it's so important because you've heard all of us say, you've heard Marguerite, Sarah, Ann, and me say today, what I didn't know or what I learned. And that's such an important first step. So thank you. And for those of us, First Pres, San Anselmo, and guests, think about going the next chance you get, every chance you get to that. So.
One more thing, I forgot to say this, and that is that the supervisors voted to put the 825 Drake, to approve the 825 Drake Avenue because of the SB 35 state mandate for the RENA housing. And they can put it in Marin City because they can. Because Marin City really doesn't have a voice. They've got the supervisor's voice. And the other thing that you can do is you can help us by showing up at the supervisor meetings, either on Zoom or coming in person. The budget's next week, not this week, right?
20.
Yeah, so it's a week from tomorrow. They're starting the budget. So send letters. And like I said, talk to somebody and have that person talk to somebody else.
And we all know how to do a 2-minute speech. How many people have spoken at a Board of Supervisors meeting? Yeah, there we go.
Yay! And the budget meeting, there will be open time at the budget meeting, $21 million surplus that they're looking for, and they've got a checklist of what they want to give. Wow. There is 1% of that 21 million is going to be spent in Marin County. I mean, in Marin City. So it's appalling. It's
For a
appalling.
consultant.
For a consultant, yes. Another study.
Question. My personal friend, Brian Colbert, is running for county supervisor. He was on the town council in San Anselmo, and he was a father at the San Anselmo preschool. And he had his fundraiser yesterday, but he's not being elected until November. Mm-hmm. I was wondering if anyone has talked to him yet regarding all this.
No, well, some people from our group have. Okay, but we need, usually we have forums, candidate forums. So the plan is to have a candidate forums that for the people that are running for supervisor, because we need different kind of supervisors. Mm-hmm. We need supervisors that are going to be more in tune with the needs of Marin City and the canal, with the underserved communities in Marin County. So thank you for the reminder. We need to start getting that organized. We've done it in the past and it's been very helpful, but now we know how to do it. We didn't know how to do it before, but now we know how to do it and ask the right questions.
Well, tell him Lorna sent you.
Okay, Lorna? Okay,
Yeah.
talk to me.
Teacher Lorna, he'll
Okay,
say.
okay. But please come talk to me after about that.
So if you think this forum was helpful, maybe people can help get this forum at other churches like Westminster Presbyterian and other groups, because I think it would help them out too. What do you think?
Great. Thank you. So much. Thank you.
Thank you, Barbara.
What?